Hello and welcome to my cellar. Okay, big thing in all over social media, well, all over Facebook, that's the only one I go to, is the sneak peeks of the new artwork for the new player handbook. And a lot of people are pretty stirred up by it. And I would probably admit to being a little more dumbfounded and amazed. The softening, the rewriting of monsters. Ogres now, they're just a family out having a picnic when they come across you guys and try to slaughter you. And don't be too bad going back because they might have babies. First comment for this episode was vegetarian ogres are next. And I don't know, I laugh at that a little, but I also cringe a little at it because, well, what I see that WotC do, and if you want to go play on that, fine. I'm not saying don't. I am lamenting the fact that they have taken the deep, dark, primeval forest that was adventuring, and they're trying to turn it into a theme park. Whatever floats your boat, right? Okay, I see that your Curse of the Weaver Queen is back for sale on World of Game Design. My copy is now on the way. Glad to see it back up. Well, I didn't know it was. I'm glad somebody wants to buy it. Of course, on this printing, I don't make anything, so I am glad that people want to get it and play it. I wish it was more remunerative in my case. Okay, in regard to WotC's orcs and other races, I know exactly what Hasbro's thinking, and it's best described as this: money. Johnny Gamer Jr. likes this kind of stuff and wants this kind of stuff. While we may not like it because it doesn't make sense for the way we play, it works for their weird games where they feel morally just and ethically sound while murder hoboing. Thankfully, we're not playing in those. It's not like gradual changes in monster species haven't been done before. Drow come to mind. The orc process has been in motion since at least 4, maybe 3. But in the end, they're buying the new books. The power's in the money, and the proof is in the pudding. By the way, black puddings are becoming civilized next, and will henceforth be called puddings of color. It seems to me that WotC is trying to take something that started out as wild and scary and potentially harmful and inimical and at odds with an easy, peaceful life, and they're trying to make it into a theme park. Oh, let's go visit the orc land. Oh well. On the ecology of dungeon traps, how much reasoning and justification do you put into dungeon traps in a campaign rather than Wheel of Blame? Do you fuss over the whys and wherefores? Well, I feel that dungeon traps can be overplayed, but right now I think they're most often overlooked. My philosophy on dungeon traps is I'm more into trapping locks and doors and chests and such than I am digging pits in the corridors, though I could see several ways to justify a big throne room that has a pit in it that's been, hidden, and I can see ways to do it. All right, but it would not just for the hell of it. There's got to be a rationale or a logic to it. I like the kind that if the thief wasn't careful and didn't carefully examine that lock and see the needle, well, that'll teach the thief, if he has or she has another time, to be a little more careful, won't it? I will salt traps into areas, into rooms, just for the hell of it. Yes, I do. If I'm planning out a large, full level of a dungeon, I might well have a room or two that has something in it. Number one, I prefer the play where the players are asking questions continually. I'm examining the walls, what do I find? I'm checking the floors, what do I find? I'm looking at the ceiling, what do I find? And when they don't do that often enough, well, I like to make them pay. Remind them that they should. Now, I'm not saying, kill a party or anything like that necessarily. But I think careless adventurers should be reminded that care is very necessary to be exercised when adventuring. But that's, it's just, I have been known to make series of traps and what have you as you go along. That was many years ago. There was a rationale and a justification for it at the time. But just to be mean and spiteful, no. Like anything else, there should be some justification, some way it fits into your storyline. And if it does, it's okay. Do traps need justification or a rationale for their existence? Or is that just spoiling the fun? Yeah, I do believe that there should be a reason a trap is there. Now, it can be as shaky as, oh my God, they built that 300 years ago and it's now just collapsed or just gone off or, whatever. That's all in your storytelling ability and the story you craft. But they certainly have a rationale. They can be rationalized. And the closer you're getting to the loot, the more you ought to look for them, in my opinion. Okay. All right, well, I've got several. We're going to talk on several things as this goes on. And at the end, it's definitely not going to be suitable for work. So I'll warn you when that part comes up, and we'll print something in the description. Okay. The PCs fixate on some throwaway NPC you improvised or how to best use PC's choices. A theme I've heard from some DMs is having to manage player groups who fixate on an NPC that the DM has not written much background on. This might be more of a problem for DMs who put a bit of acting into their NPCs, but perhaps the phenomenon is more universal if applied to other situations. That is, areas of investigation where the PCs won't leave an area they're searching despite all efforts yielding no new results. Okay. All right. The ones with okay, we'll take the last part first. I'll let them sit there and look for as long as they want. I don't care. It's their playing time. I derive great amounts of amusement watching players squibble and squabble and go down these rabbit holes. So I don't care. I'm having fun. Argue yourselves to death. I'm having a good time. Now, what I do now with the wheel, that doesn't often happen. But when I go back to running, regular, scripted adventures, like I will be, in the incoming months, well, then that's a different story. If they want, if for some reason you have a non-essential NPC running around in there for some reason, and they fix on it, well, you can do a number of things. You can just simply disappear him. You can kill him. I don't mean necessarily stick a knife in him, but you can have him die. And, well, fixate on something else now. Especially if it's something that you're just winging it with. Well, wing it right into an early demise. When they want to wander around in a room and look, that's fine with me. I find it entertaining in a sadistic, cruel sort of way. And admittedly so. And as for the NPCs, kill them off, have them betray them, have them freak out, have them fail a morale check and run away. No reason you can't do that. They lose their shit and they run away. And unfortunately, the player characters aren't able to chase them and see where they went. Let's get on with the game and not waste all this time. But you can't tell the players to do that because then you're being railroady. Okay. Argue all you want. All right. Next comment. The revision is bullshit. Amen. When you mentioned rocks being trained to drop people with a parachute, it made me think of Batman and the Skyhook. If people insist on playing that D&D that way, they can have it. Right. That's the thing about D&D. You play it the way you like it. You don't like it that way, find somebody else who plays a different way. I've stopped caring about what WotC does with D&D. I will never buy another product from them, so it really doesn't matter to me. I think the best case scenario is the suits at Hasbro decide D&D isn't profitable enough and simply license it out to some studio that would actually make a quality product that acknowledges its roots. Yeah, that's certainly a best case scenario, and I don't mean to sound wry and cynical, but I don't ever see it happening. WotC will suck every bit of juice out of this orange and throw away a beginning to molder, wrung out rind. As long as the younger players are buying this revisionist stuff, they'll keep making it. They're a company like everybody else that they want to produce products that people will buy. They believe that people want to buy this sanitized theme park style of adventuring. They might be right. Will we play that? No. Is anybody forcing us to play that? No. Are we free to sit and sneer on the sidelines at people who do play that? Why, yes, of course. Everybody has that desire to feel superior to the person next to them. Fine, here's a good place to do it. No mixing of sci-fi with fantasy magic. I'm basically the same in my games. Amusingly, that is part of the reason I don't really like psionics in D&D. Well, but psionics isn't really science fiction. Psionics is all about overdeveloped brain waves, and, I don't consider Doctor Strange's capabilities. Ooh, something floating across again. It's amazing. These dust particles are little tiny spiders. I don't know. I don't consider that to be the same. That's not sci-fi. That's more mental powers. That's you could acquire that as he did from study from these ancient monks way back, way where, and they can train you in these arts. I don't consider that to be science. But, that's not a criticism. I just never thought of it that way, so I never mixed it. But really, psionics isn't science. Did you ever play any PC RPG that had D&D rules or was modeled off D&D, like Wizardry, Ultima, Bard's Tale, Might and Magic, or any of the SSI Gold Box games? Perhaps your children played some of them. I looked at several of these, for a period of time, 20 minutes, an hour perhaps. The only PC game that I really enjoyed playing back in the day that felt the most to me like D&D was the early iteration of I love, goddamn, getting old is fun when you start forgetting shit like this. I'm looking for the icon on my desktop to remind me what the name of this thing is. I did play Might and Magic and War. I gotta start taking Prevagen or something. Age of Wonders. I've played Age of Wonders through all its iterations, and it had the most D&D-ish feel to me. And so I still play it. It's an amazing game, in my opinion. Of course, I have a lot of personal history involved in keeping the game alive during its iterations between 3 and 4 being republished again. So, I've got a stake in it. Okay, another comment on the revisionism. WotC is catering to a trend among younger gamers, trying to be as inclusive by appealing to as many demographics as possible, while trying to remove any notions of racism, sexism, slavery, discrimination, genocide, or cruelty to animals. Every player character or race or ancestry is considered a sentient being with lives of their own. For example, in the original version of The Lost Mind of Phandelver for 5e, the PCs find 2 dead horses. In the revision, the horses are just standing there while goblins wait in ambush. But the goblins aren't really evil, though they have set an ambush. And they can tell you about other strange goblins in the area. The way I understand it, WotC listened to feedback from players who didn't like dead horses. So they revise. In my opinion, different comment. In my opinion, WotC's revision is a non-controversy. I'll play the game however I want to play it. Yes. That's why everybody gnashing their teeth and wailing and rending their garments this past week. If you don't like it, don't play it. You're free to sneer at it. You're free to revile it. You're free to love it if you want to. All right. Now, another comment. The funny thing is that campaigns are still about the PCs inflicting violence and death to get what they want. The younger gamers demand a front-loading of their morality, but seem to turn a blind eye to how stultifying such an inclusive world would be to adventure in. Maybe in the next edition, every character will first have to make a charisma check to browbeat an opponent into submission. Yeah, isn't it fun? All right. My orcs have already been a sentient kind of creature for a long time. They may have come from the mud or whatever, but over time some of them got smarter about things and formed tribes and started nomadic living or building settlements in certain places. They'll still kill you deader than a doorknob if you're in their territory and smell like trouble, which all adventurers do. They don't think about your family when the axe comes down, so you shouldn't think about theirs. Yes. Okay, now, this is the part that gets not suitable for work. This week, WizardCon, that I was scheduled to attend next month, was canceled. Once more, the slime-sucking monocellular I'm already losing touch with words to call this individual, has reared his ugly head again and acted in a mean, vindictive, and basically illegal fashion. Now, the flaming putrescence that I'm discussing is an individual named Justin. Now, if I don't use any last names, I can't be accused of slandering any one individual. If there is an individual out there that thinks I'm slandering them and they were to object publicly, they would have to address the charges or the claims. And if they were so unbelievably ignorant, which is still a possibility given some of the behavior that's been exhibited so far, they're so ignorant as to file a suit, then I get discovery. And that, of course, would rip the Band-Aid off the scab and expose. Now, this individual, this Justin, first saw a possible scam when he saw that certain trademarks had lapsed that TSR used to own. So he jumped on them, figuring that, they made a gross error, and when they discover that, they'll be desperate to get them back, and I'll hold them up for a whole lot of money. Now, concurrent with this wizard idea, this is a person that, for a fundraiser for another business in another state, had jello wrestling or mud wrestling night. So we already got a good idea of the level of sophistication and class of this individual. He has none. He saw another opportunity. He was going to jump in, buy the old TSR building, and turn it into a D&D museum in the heart of where D&D was born, like Geneva. Now, we've found out over the months and years in sewing since then that it was meant to be a for-profit organization. He was looking to wring money out of gamers who were curious enough to come by and see where it all began. He thought to challenge an established con that was already up there. He thoroughly pissed off several designers that he had originally tried to coerce into, or con, or, hey buddy, into getting into bed with him. I had considered very early on, when the concept of the museum was brand new, I had considered loaning some pieces of mine to the museum And when I found out later that it was for profit, I backed away. Well, that earned me the undying enmity of Justin. Now, I wasn't the only person that bailed on this individual and this coalition of idiots, this confederacy of dunces that he assembled up there. And I'm sorry to say that, because a couple of the people that he drug in with him were duped. Whether or not you want to criticize them for being able to be duped is your choice. They were duped into investing. And so then the shitstorm happened, the dumpster fire, as I like to refer to it, when they went off after trans people and gay people and people of color and just about everybody else that they didn't like. And this went on for some time. Now, this same individual who thought that he was going to ring Watsy out for some cash finds himself embroiled right up to his Adam's apple in a lawsuit with Watsy that I predict, and just about everybody else I know who has any knowledge of this case going on, is going to wring him out like a chamois run through a wringer on an old washing machine and leave him penniless. He's filed for bankruptcy. That's not going to work. It's already going against him. He's going to owe well over $500,000 to Watsy when this is all done, I predict. Legal fees alone. He made the stupid mistake of paying various people through other entities other than the game company he set up and the hobby shop that he established. So he's commingled funds from other businesses. So they're all going to get sucked up. And now, this individual has accused me of being a thief and having been fired from TSR for stealing. A very good friend of mine, he's accused of being a pedophile. He's such a creature of revulsion that a friend of mine lost a daughter a few years ago, and this Justin sent pictures purporting to be the autopsy of his dead daughter. He's declared vendetta. His latest vile, filthy, underhanded, scheming move, this man is just eaten up with bitterness. He contacted the Battle Creek Convention Center, where Don Samora and Wizard Tower Games had contracted to hold WizardCon next month. And in one that he signed his entire full name to, he makes all sorts of baseless claims about Mr. Samora being a crook and having stiffed people before and predicting that it'll all happen again. And it's just slander of the vilest sort. And after this going back and forth, Battle Creek says, we can't get our fingers dirty with this dude. That he's your problem. You're canceled. So several weeks before I was ready to go up there, it's over. Not going to happen. Not in July. Again, sheer vindictiveness. This is the same individual who filed an anonymous tip with customs that the container that a certain load of games was in had contraband in it. Container was seized, held. The contents eventually were damaged by humidity and everything because of paper goods. And of course, there was nothing in it. Happened a second time, a different container. So we know who's dropping these dimes to the customs people. Justin has made hideous false claims against several people in the industry that I know not to be true. And now he's killed a con for the people of Battle Creek and Michigan in July. Isn't that special? His mean-spiritedness, his overflowing bile and vindictiveness have now ruined several hundred, maybe more, people's fun. If he can't have it, no one can. Justin, I'd really like you. We'd both really like you to sue us for slander. Because then you'd have to submit to these charges, and we'd get to file discovery. Now, you've already been creamed in one discovery. Why don't you just suck it up, take your punishment, and slink back to the eastern coast, somewhere in the Carolinas, whatever bog you arose from. You've tried competing with Gary Kahn, that failed. You tried to establish a museum, that failed. Now you're going to try, well, now you have succeeded in getting a convention canceled. However, you all should know that there'll be an announcement very soon of when this is going to be rescheduled. All the vendors who had come on board have pledged their returning support. All the vendors' fees had been put in escrow, and so they've already been repaid. Nobody's out a dime that was tied up with this. Now, there's some disappointed hopes and some plans that have to be redone. But, gee, Justin, we've just decided to take it a different direction, do it a little better, and put out a better product. Now, that information I'll leave to Wizard Tower Games to promulgate when we've worked out all the details. But you failed. You miserable, miserable piece of crap. You failed. You're not going to hurt Wizard Tower Games or Mr. Samora. Well, I don't have to call him Mr. Samora. He's published some of my stuff and will be publishing more, though I have no stake in his company. I do have a stake in our continued progress going ahead. The stuff that this individual has done, the behavior he has displayed, puts him on an evolutionary scale, in my opinion, of algal slime. The stuff that forms in the back corner of the aquarium when you aren't paying real good attention to keeping it clean every week. That green, slimy stuff that not even the fish will eat. Yeah, that's him. So, sorry for those of you who had planned on coming. It'll be announced as soon as possible. Registration will be set up. We'll have a list of potential dealers that'll be there. And on a positive note, the Lost Adventures are finally bound. Had to buy a new binder. Had to buy a new binding machine to get them finished, but there it is. Now, that leaves us with D20 Delving. The other project that I have a stake in is mainly in the work I've done with it. I'm not going to go broke or get rich either way. But D20 Delving was ruined by dropping into dime of false, this. So there went the paper. The paper got ruined when it was opened up and inspected and became water swollen. There went to the games from China that had been printed and made. They're gone because your tortious interference caused them to become destroyed and unsellable. But guess what, Justin? The printer ate those. So now you got some guy in China pissed as hell at you. Maybe he'll find you before somebody else gets a hold of your slimy, scaly... I could just sit here and call you playground names all day. But everybody now knows what you are. You're a despicable piece of shit. Don't know how you sleep at night. You twisted, perverted, perverse little son of a bitch. Fuck you. And on that happy note, I'll say, Dodata Govi. Hello, and welcome to my cellar.
The curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory, tight with tramp under a tree, high as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.